All right, welcome back to the Farm Kenya show. And as I told you, we're going to get flowers. And who better to discuss flowers than Dr. Moniki Taiti. Dr. welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot.
You know, you're a crop scientist. So when I saw that title, I was like, we're going to be in a lab coat with those goggles, you know, and a lot of mist around us. What do you do as a crop scientist?
Thanks a lot. Good afternoon, viewers. I'm Dr. Moniki Taiti, crop scientist. Thanks a lot, Noah. As opposed to, you know, the agriculture industry is diverse. And in agriculture, you can either specialize in livestock farming or crop production. And when, again, you come to crop production, you are either an agronomist consulting in crop husbandry in terms of production, or you are either an expert looking into the analysis on conditions favorable for crop production in terms of analysis for disease and pest management, conditions suitable for production. There is an element of research in crop scientists as opposed to agronomy. That's the main difference. There is a lot of research. As a scientist, you keep on researching on the pests and, of course, the pest build-up and introduction of pests in the farming industry is something that is occurring on almost daily basis. Now we have FCM on flowers, you know, a pest that was not there in our traditional flower farming in the olden days.
Okay, I see that. So research very critical. And I love how almost every sector there is this element of working together.
Yes.
It's not very linear. It's very cyclic, sort of.
Yes.
But since today we're focusing on flower farming, the status of flower farming in Kenya, because it's an industry that from majority of the people, they see it as a big boys industry. So we know flower farms, you know, those are big tracts of land, people go there to work. So a normal Kenyan walking in the street, I can think about maize farming in my 1 acre, 2 acre. Rarely do I think about flower farming. Like I'll go plant flowers. Talk to me about how the sector is divided. Is it predominantly leaning towards large-scale players, or are there also small-scale players? And what does that mean? The status quo of the flower industry in Kenya.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Flower farming, to start with, is one of subsectors of horticulture. Horticulture is divided into olericulture, that is vegetable farming. There is pomoculture, fruit farming. And then we have floriculture, which is flower farming. Flower farming, as you pose, is that it has predominantly been a big boys business in terms of scale of production. But we are now championing the production of flowers among the small-scale farmers. In as much as farmers are capable to do vegetable farming, which is olericulture, there are tracts they can manage to do onion farming, they can manage to do potato farming, they can manage to do cucumber farming, carrot farming, and the like. The same farmer can do flower production in terms of the variety and the species. Because, again, flower production is also scaled towards the species and the varieties that you are talking about. The species is the lowest taxonomy in when you are classifying living organisms, and plants. Flowers especially also happen to be in the kingdom plantae. Okay. So, and actually to start with, what is a plant? And we would say that a plant is in the plant kingdom, and I'm a specialist in crop plant. There is a major difference, and I think at this juncture it's very important to expound that every crop is a plant, and not all plants are crops. crops are produced, crops are domesticated plants for various uses and purposes. You can have production for food, that becomes a crop. Production for bioaesthetics, that is like flowers now, produced for bioaesthetics. You can also produce for medicinal value of the plant. Whatever has been domesticated and produced for a certain purpose by the humankind becomes a crop. And therefore, it is possible that small-scale farmers can do flower production when you look at the two categories of flowers. For example, the big players in terms of large-scale producers of cut flowers have majored in rose production. Cut flowers in terms of rose production. But you can also do open field farming in flowers. And I think this is where most of us small scale are not quite sure of what do you mean by open large scale production of flowers. These flowers, we call them summer flowers. And these summer flowers are called summer flowers because they are majorly produced in the summer season in the European countries, or in Europe. In Europe, where we have 4 seasons, we have winter, spring, summer, autumn. And when there is summer, there is sufficient sunlight. The conditions are conducive, and they produce summer flowers. The same flowers can be produced when they are not in a position to produce due to unfavorable climates in their region. So if I'm getting you correctly, yes.
First of all, I love the quote, crops are domesticated plants, man. That's a massive quote, you know, you just drop it like, you know what, crops are domesticated plants.
Yes.
But you say, when it comes to flower production, there is the open field you've mentioned.
Yes.
And there is what we see big players do. They do in these massive greenhouses.
Yes.
Maybe just, if we can walk back a little bit. If you want to go into flower farming.
Yes.
As a farmer, you have your 2 acres, 5 acres somewhere. And you're thinking, maybe I can grow flowers listening to Dr. Tahiti. What am I looking at? What are the considerations before going into flower farming? One,
you look at the variety, the species of the flower, because the first question in flower production, as opposed to other agronomical crops, flowers are not mainly grown for consumption. Though, actually, there are some flowers that are edible. There are flowers that are edible, and they fall again in horticulture. When you're talking about broccoli, broccoli is a flower. Cauliflower is a flower. Brussels sprouts are flowers, which are edible. They are the part that we eat in those vegetables is actually the flower. But the flower that now probably we want to look at for export is a crop plant that is not edible. So you look at the market first. The key thing, the foundation of export or production of flowers is the market. Do you have the market? That's the first question. Because you can produce flowers, but if you don't have the market, then they overwhelm you in terms of where you take these flowers. So the key thing is the market. Then you have to look at other inputs that are required for production. Do you have space? Do you have space? Not necessarily land, because you can do production in closed buildings, like when you have potted plants. You can have a very small greenhouse measuring 8 to 15, and you do your pot mums. These are small potted plants which are grown for, again, aesthetics. That is what we call indoor landscaping in terms of horticulture. And if you have the market and then you have water, because they'll, like any other plants, they will consume water. Then you must also think about nutrition, because you need to feed them. And then again, you need to consider pest and disease management. Actually, we say pest management. Now we are coming from pest and disease. As you realize, diseases are also pests. Yes. So we say pest management.
Diseases are not domesticated. That would be funny. Yeah, so pest management also becomes very critical.
Yes.
So you factored all this in. Of course, the most common question would be, how is the market right now, as we speak, since you're in the industry? For a farmer who wants to go into this or is in this already, you say we have to target the export market. How's the balance between local consumption or local utilization of our flour vis-a-vis export? Do you export 99%?
Thanks a lot, Noah. One thing I would say is that flowers, or a flower is something that is used on daily basis. At the moment, flowers is just like food for consumption, because they are used in various, for various reasons and purposes. They are in various events, including burials, and burials happen, and we pray that, you can't pray that people don't die, because that's human nature. At one time we'll die, but burials happen, and you find a bucket of, a bouquet of flowers. There are weddings. So in our local context in Kenya, if you go to city market and other outlets, or every other town, you find the flower vendors. And they are targeting, including birthdays. There is the Mother's Day. There is the Valentine, the booming season for the flowers. So it would be possible for a small-scale farmer to produce for local consumption, for local use in the manner that I have explained. Okay. But also there are farmers who feel, because again, small scale is relative. Small scale is relative in terms of how intensive do you want to do your production. You can have a greenhouse of 8 by 15 that can economically outdo a field of 10 acres based on the variety of the flower that you are doing.
Okay.
Yes. Because again, they also fetch different prices. They occur in, for example, orchids are quite a little bit expensive when you consider them to ornithogalums or Star of Bethlehem, erigiums and the like. They will depend on what kind of a niche is that flower. And then is it possible to produce. And we have come here to encourage the small-scale growers that it is possible to do intensive flower production and farming in a small unit area as opposed to the large-scale production in terms of tracts of land.
Okay.
Yes.
So you can do in a small unit of areas, you've rightly put it. So you've spoken about the type of flowers. I know earlier on you had mentioned the issue of summer flowers, especially when they're not able to produce the other end. You know, we are in the equators, we're in Africa,
yes.
So weather is working to our favor. So, I mean, for small-scale farmers, because now you're focusing, you've done your market right. And by the way, this sourcing of market, because I see we discuss markets, and we normally sort of glide over it. We say you have to source a market, and after that you do this and that. And the farmer is asking, okay, how do I go about this issue of sourcing a market? Is it me going to the internet and searching? Okay, where is the flower demand? As an industry player, what works for a small-scale farmer to be able to access market, especially that export market that you're talking about?
Thanks a lot. Noah, flower production has many players. There are many players that are now ready, as we talk, to assist the small-scale interested flower producer or grower. We have the AFA, Agricultural and Food Authority Directorate. It advises farmers, and they have their own extension workers. There is FPIC, Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya. There is KEFIS now that is giving farmers certified smart seeds. There is the Minister of Agriculture also comes in. There are many advices, and the key thing here is information dissemination and how well can the farmer access that information. Because we have agronomists, we have people who can advise farmers, at times even in their doorstep. In every county, there is an establishment for the under the Agricultural and Food Directorate that can advise every other person who is interested in flower production, including now marketing, the one that you're asking. You don't need to go to the internet, you know. And again, also, the big players now, the people you are calling large-scale producers, they are enticing, and they are already recruiting now agronomists. I know of a big establishment in terms of export of cut flowers, who is now who has more than 6,000 outgrowers all over the country, in producing summer flowers. As long as you qualify in terms of meeting the standards of production, you are eligible to become an outgrower for a certain large producer. Because of course, exporting flowers, you have to meet certain criteria, certain standards, and you have to be first of all, you have to be registered as an exporter at the AFA. Then again, you have to be audited by KEFIS. There are several regulatory bodies. And again, also PCPB will come in, pest and control, because again, the market is worried in terms of one, the quality, and also now they are worried about what has been used to produce these flowers in terms of residues. Initially, it was a matter of thinking about a flower is not used for human consumption, and therefore I can spray any pest control product. But nowadays, there are several regulations. Those big players, the large-scale growers, are in a position to meet. But again, they are aware. If the small-scale farmer can start by being anchored as an outgrower, and they are there, they are available. This is information that we can disseminate to our small-scale growers, those who want to venture into floriculture. Then they can, they'll be given the volumes, first of all, based on their ability to produce, and of course the critical requirements in flower production, including water, will come in handy for a small-scale farmer to be recruited by a big exporter in the country.
Okay, definitely. So what you're saying, as it stands right now, for you to be able to tap on the opportunities that are there in the external market, the export market, is that 99% of the chances lie with you becoming an outgrower, being linked to a large producer, as you know, you learn the industry and whatnot. Speaking about the different types of flowers, I know you've touched on the summer flower. Based on the scale, since there is a limitation for small-scale flowers, I'm looking at return on investment in that small space. You really have to take care of the input, but also the type of flower that you grow. So talking about the low-hanging fruit, I mean flowers stand fruits, but talking about that, what are some of the types of flowers that now farmers, especially that could easily. If you go into it, it wouldn't be very difficult to get attached to maybe a large-scale player to be able to tap into this export market.
Yeah, correct. Well, we have a wide range of summer flowers, including Arabicum. We can do Arabicum, which is actually started from the bulbs. It's like the bulb onion. And after production, after harvest, it becomes easier for that small-scale farmer. Instead of going again to look for seeds, the small bulbs, the small flowers that did not attain the required height in terms of centimeters required, can be used as seeds for the next crop. So flower production is as easy as that. If I am going to get a bag, for example, you can start by multiplying the seeds initially. You don't need to look for a big budget to purchase seedlings or cuttings or looking for these, certified smart seeds from Kefis. You can start from your neighbor, that grower who is doing a summer flower. For example, I've said Arabicum.
Yes.
And has small seeds. You can easily purchase, even with up to 500 shillings. 500 shillings, you can get a few bulbs, multiply them within your farm, and then from that you can multiply based on your capacity. I know farmers who can do an acre or two of onions, can do a quarter of Hypericum, can do a quarter of Arabicum, can do a quarter of Astromeria. Those are the lilies, and they are easily to produce. So if the farmer can multiply the seeds by just sourcing from the neighbor or that exporter, people are interested. The government is interested, and is very much one of the strengths that we have now in flower production is the good collaboration that we are getting from the key players in flower production.
Okay.
The government is very much willing now to diversify the farming practices among the smallholders. And there are foundations that are geared towards helping the small-scale producer to diversify in terms of commercial production.
Okay. Very, very critical.
Yes.
And even as we tap into that, because input has always been a challenge in this country, the cost of input. So you find, especially if you're not scaling enough, it becomes very difficult for you to have returns. And we've seen this in different sectors. In the flower sector, how is the cost of input, especially if for small-scale players who are coming in, how critical is that element? Is it cause of concern that farmers should be wary of?
Noah, just like you had said, that Kenya is lying along the equator. We enjoy a very, what I would call, favorable climate for flower production with no limitation. The only challenge now that we are having is the effects of climate change. But when you look at inputs or factors of production, they are readily available. We have large tracts of land. And you find even the person who is calling himself a small-scale farmer can afford to get a quarter, some even a plot. Because of the high value of the crop, it will be in a position to, the crop in itself will be in a position to break even or to be of economic value to a very low unit of production. And that's why I'm saying even a quarter, at times even a plot, will be sufficient for somebody to practice flower farming.
Okay.
And then let me take you back to the ancient times a little bit. And you remember, flower farming is the only enterprise that has been recorded as one of the wonders of the world.
Really?
Yeah. When you talk about the hanging gardens of Babylon, those who are ornamentals. That is the only crop
I see that.
You can have a small-scale farmer can do, and you know what King Nebuchadnezzar II did in order to impress the wife, because he had come from Iran, now modern-day Iran, because now we are talking of Iraq here, where they were building the hanging gardens. Is that the wife aspired to observe the green hills from where she had come from. And then people, and that is why it became a wonder, how do you now feed in those days? In those days, how do you feed the crops? How do you, feed the crops? How do you manage pests and diseases?
Yes.
And they were there hanging gardens. So it is possible even to start with hanging some pots, even baskets, around the house, which can be used for commercial purposes. I know, Noah, you have a potted plant somewhere.
Yeah.
The money plant. I can see it from your house or something like that.
I see. You have so much faith on me, with this issue of plants, yeah?
Yes.
But I'm getting a lot of encouragement. And also just how enthusiastic you are about flowers.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing.
Yes.
You touched on the issue of fertilizer, and you had mentioned, now there is a new type that we are using, especially for export market. They're very sensitive in terms of what we use in production, the input.
Yes.
Talk to me about that aspect of pest management in flower farming. Where are we as a country? Are we adhering with these different rules that cut across different jurisdictions that we hope to get market into?
Thanks a lot. Talking about pest control as a key component and a factor in production of quality, because nobody will allow you to export any plant material, CAFES being there, and also me and you, because you don't want somebody to bring in the country a plant that has been infested by a foreign pest that will be obnoxious in our production endeavors. So we are moving, and that is now the current thing. We are moving from the use of synthetic pest control products. Of course, pest control products, they are classified into basically three classifications. One in terms of origin, where are we getting these pest control products? Are they synthetics? Are they plant extracts? Are they microbials, what you call microbes? Such, that is classification based on origin. And again, you can also classify at the World Health Organization. And that is where the big debate lies now, when you talk about World Health Organization of pest control products. Highly toxic, moderately toxic, those that can cause no toxicological effects in terms of human health and environmental health. So we are moving now. We are moving now towards the use of pest control products that are of plant origin. Either they are extracts from plants, or they are microbials. Microbials are antagonistic microorganisms that are in a position to control, either by feeding or emitting substances that are going to keep away the pests. So these ones have no issues towards towards human health, because extracts, when you are talking about, for example, pyrethrins. Pyrethrins are pest control products that have been obtained from pyrethrums. We have, for example, garlic has been observed to produce pest repelling, even knocking down substances. And that is where I'm actually coming from. And as an expert in crop science, again, I have narrowed down into pest control products. And where I am, we are championing the use of biopesticides. So farmers are not disadvantaged in terms of pest management. Nutrition, again, we have various players that are producing the required nutrients for the plants.
Okay.
Of course, I have heard farmers talking about the fertilizer called NPK. There is nothing like that. There is no fertilizer by the name NPK. NPK are plant nutrients in form of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The fertilizers have their own names.
Okay.
Where you find the lay person will walk into an agro bedding shop and ask for the fertilizer by the name NPK. Just like you cannot walk into a hotel and ask for proteins, vitamin, give me protein, vitamin, and carbohydrates. Similarly, when you go into a shop, a farmer goes into a shop and asks for NPK, you are basically asking for...
but there are nutrients that
those are nutrients. Fertilizers have names.
Okay.
Definitely. Based on who is producing and...
Okay. Definitely.
Yes.
Dr. Harry, this issue is quite extensive, honestly. Today we just touched on tip of the iceberg, as we call it, looking at the overview of the flower industry.
Correct.
I think in our subsequent shows, we intend to go into details. For example, when it comes to pest and crop management, how to do it, what's the right way, what's the wrong way, especially for small-scale farmers and whatnot. But thank you very much for today and for your input and gracing our show. Dr. Mwaniki Taiti is a crop scientist, and we're talking about flower farming. I think now we've started building the knowledge on how to get into flower farming. And the Farm Kenya show takes a short break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we are not eating flowers, but we are making some interesting burger. Stay